Hello everyone, my name is Joshua Tuaila and I'm the Art Studio Manager here at the Goddard Art Center. And today what I'm going to be showing you is how to throw on the wheel. Now I'm going to cover our basics of what you need and give you a demonstration of wheel throwing. So that being said, let's get started. So the basics that you'll need to start throwing on the wheel are, for one, clay, a container of water, a sponge to control your water when you add it to the clay, a wooden and metal rib tool, a needle tool, a wooden trim tool, and a cutting wire. This is what you'll need to start throwing on the wheel. So, the next step we want to do is we want to wedge our clay. But before we do that, we want to get our surface area a little damp. That way when we wedge and work our clay doesn't dry out. So I got this damp. Now we grab our clay and put it down ready to work with. So when we wedge our clay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my hands, put them together, and we'll put them on the clay. Then I'm going to push down at a 45-degree angle, like this. I'm going to tilt it up again and push down again. Tilt it up and push down. What this does, it homogenizes the clay and distributes the water within to make all the clay even. Now you want to do this about 20 times. When you do it, you can see the spirals start to finish out and it becomes round. And it starts to begin to look like a ram's head. So, let me round this out. And the next step we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half. So we take a wire rib tool, slice it in half. And we're going to join these two pieces back together after we check them for bubbles. So bubbles or air pockets are these little holes left in the clay that we're trying to get rid of. What we want to do is after we cut them in half, we're going to separate them away from each other. So I'm going to take this face, we'll throw it down. I'm going to keep this face up, and I'm going to join them together and wedge again. And you want to do this about 2 or 3 times until you have your cylinder ready to go. So let's get throwing. Okay, so now that I have all my equipment ready, let's get throwing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a bat and secure it to our wheel. This will help separate the clay when we're finished. Next, wipe off the bat. I like to get it a little damp so the clay stays secure. Next, we're going to grab our clay and we're trying to put it in the center of our bat. To center it as close as possible. So, when we do this, throw it down and make a good suction on it. There we go. You want to make sure your piece is all the way in center. Next step, measure it. It's perfect. So, next step, grab our clay, water it, get your hands wet, and we're going to cone up and down twice. How we do that is, we make a V shape with our hands. I'm going to come in from the bottom of the clay. I'm going to cuff my fingers together and I'm going to let the clay ride my hands up into a cone shape. I'm going to do this 2 times. That was 1. When we cone back down, I'm going to take my palm, put it on top, and brace the outside with my other hand. Brace this, use my palm, and push it back down. And we coned it up and down once. Let's do it one more time. Perfect. So I cupped my hands in the V shape, interlocking my fingers, pulled it up. Now, brace the outside, use my palm, push the clay back down. Next step, we're going to center this piece. So, how I do that is I'm going to just brace the outside. I'm not pushing or pulling with my hand. I'm just going to brace the clay with my outside. And with my other hand, I'm going to take the bottom part of my palm and I'm going to secure the top, interlocking my thumbs. When I push down on top, I'm going to let go of the hand on the left side. When I push in with my outside hand, I'm going to let go of the top. This is kind of like a clutch to find that sweet spot that we can center the clay with. So, brace the outside, start pushing out with the top, interlocking my hands, and we'll start smoothing it out. And when we do, we find our edge. We help center it a little bit. So it's not wobbly after this. After we've done that, next thing we're going to do, we're going to wet our top and we're going to drop the hole. Now to drop the hole, we need to find our center. How I find my center is I put my hands and thumbs together, and at the tips of my thumbs they make a V in between them. And I'm going to take that V and I'm going to push it in the center of my clay. And when I do that, it makes a little bump. And I let go gently. And wherever that bump is, that's the center of the clay. And I'm going to take my two fingers, following the line in between them, and I'm going to push down, dropping the hole. So let's do that. Get the piece damp. I'll brace my hand, follow my line between my two fingers, and I'm going to drop the hole. You don't want to drop it too low now. We still need a foot in the floor. So after that, clear it out. And this is the only time we're going to stop the wheel. Stop the wheel and we're going to check the depth of the floor. So, we'll take our needle tool, and how we measure it is we're going to take it, push it down into the middle of our piece, through the floor touching the bat. And we're going to find the differential between the bat and the clay. So I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to run it against the needle until I hit the clay. And there's going to be a difference between the clay and the bat. When I pull it back up, it gives me about 1 centimeter of length. That's plenty of space to work with for a floor. So, now that I know the distance of that, I'm going to leave the floor alone for now. So, next step, add a little bit of water. Now we're going to widen the hole. How we do that is, just like centering it, brace the outside of my hand, not pushing it or pulling it or anything. My hand's going to be on the outside, just bracing it. Next, I'm going to take 2 fingers, I'm going to interlock my thumbs, and I'm going to pull this inside clay with my 2 fingers towards my palm. And it's going to drag that clay up and widen the hole. So, brace, interlock my 2 fingers, and I'm going to pull. And when you do that, the hole widens and we can begin throwing our walls up. So to check and make sure that your piece is wide enough, if you have a round sponge, this is a good indicator to measure the size. If your sponge can fit inside the hole, you're good. So smooth this out. Next thing we're going to do in the process of throwing our walls up, we're going to take your wooden rib tool and we're going to take the flat part of it with the curved edge against the wall, and we're going to press down and against the wall at the same time. So you want the rib to face you going in the direction of the wheel so it doesn't catch the clay. This way you can smooth it out without any restriction. So I'm going to take it, grab it by the hole, and push down and against the wall. And this is going to help strengthen and compress the clay while I do this. And slowly pull upwards. We take all this excess that we don't need and we throw it in the catch. Now that we've compressed it, we can start throwing the walls up. So, how I begin is I like to make a track with my finger. So, I'll take my finger, put it against the bat, and I'll push it into the clay, making a little groove or divot in the side. And this is where my finger's going to go. Next, I'll take my hands and make what I call the butterfly position. Your wings are the butterfly, its body is going to be the clay. So, this outside hand is going to be in the groove underneath this hand, which is going to be on the inside. This hand can't be the same level as your other hand because there's a floor that you have to watch out for. So, I'm going to put this hand right at the point where the floor meets the wall. This hand is going to be inside the groove. And they make a V shape with your outside hand underneath your inside hand. And we're going to push in and upwards with our outside hand, and then out and upwards with our inside hand. If we do that at the same time, we can pull the clay upwards. So let's try it. Whenever you pull your walls up, you want to go really slow so that you make sure it's even all the way through. So, let's try that again. Make my groove. Let's get the clay a little wet so it doesn't grab me, and we'll start over again. Following the groove, pushing in and upwards. Same way with my inside hand. Pushing out and upwards, we're pulling this clay up. And then let go slowly. Next thing, if our lip is kind of off and wobbly, here's how we smooth it out. I'm going to pinch the lip, not too much pressure, just enough to brace it. Then I'm going to take my sponge and push it against the lip and my fingers to help smooth it out. When you do this, you make your lip even. And we always want an even lip because that's our guide. Next, we want to get rid of any excess clay on the outside and help strengthen the wall. And how we do that is we're going to use our metal rib tool. This is flexible and you can bend it to any shape that you need. So, with my metal rib tool, I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up, slowly curving it and catching all this wet clay on the outside. If your piece is wobbly, you can use the same method to get it back on track and even. So we throw off all that excess. Now we smoothed out the side. Let's get rid of this excess clay that's on the bottom that we don't need. And this is where our wooden trim tool is going to come in. So what I like to do is I take my wooden trim tool, I face the sharp part towards me, and I put the tip on the bat. And then I will gradually cut into the clay, getting rid of the excess. You really want to brace yourself when you do this. So I'll put my knife against the bat and slide it in, cutting off the excess. Then I cut it out again. And then I scoop it up. And then we have all this excess that we didn't need, throw it in your catch. Next step, after we're completely finished and we're content with our piece, we use our wire tool to cut it off. So, we'll slow down our wheel just enough to where it starts spinning. We're going to make our line really taut and tight. We're going to put this line right up against the bat closest to us, and we're going to push through the clay. We don't want to pull to the clay because the human body has a tendency to pull back and upwards. So we don't want that. So we're going to push through. So we'll make it taut, put my line against the bat, and in one fell swoop, push through it. Ready? Go. Perfect. So, now that we've cut off our piece, we're ready to take off our bat and let it dry. So, here is our cylinder. Perfect. So this has been Joshua Tuaila, and thank you for watching our videos.